Good evening and welcome to the November meeting of the Tupelo Planning Committee. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones. And now at this time, if you would rise, and we'll have the invocation that I'll have, and then the Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Margaret Ann Kennedy. Heavenly Father, it's indeed a good day that you've given us. We thank you for all the blessings that you've given us, for all the blessings you give our families and our city. Be with this group as we meet tonight. May our decisions be as you would want them to be, the best for the neighbors, the best for the city. These things we, of course, ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Tupelo Planning Committee is a volunteer group appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. We receive no compensation for this, and we do it as a community service. The committee spends a lot of time and our own funds studying and researching the applications and visiting the sites that are on our agenda each month. We ask that you remember that we do not take our positions on any application lightly. Our decisions are based on facts as they are presented and with regard to the regulations set forth in the city code. The Planning Committee may impose conditions on approval of a request as it deems necessary to mitigate potential hazards or problems, or to bring the nonconformity into compliance to the extent necessary to protect the rights and interests of nearby property owners and the general public. And at this time, I would like to ask the staff and committee members to introduce themselves, starting with Pat.
Pat Faulkner, city planner.
MacArthur Turner.
Christian Reed.
Patty Thompson.
Gus Hildenbrand.
Margaret Ann Kennedy.
Scott Davis.
Bill Smith.
Thank you. Now we'll review the last meeting's minutes, which actually was a September meeting. We did not meet in October. Are there any additions or corrections to this? Do I hear some action on it?
I so move.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill Smith and second by Scott? That we approve it. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passed. Mr. Faulkner, do you have anything to report on the City Council's actions from our last meeting or previous meetings?
The city council has upheld both of the actions that the planning committee took with regard to the appeal and the subdivision. The text amendments having to have a second public hearing will not be heard until tomorrow night.
All right, thank you. And now, tonight, we have 3 items on our agenda. The first one is FLEX 17-03, which is the Department of Development Services has received a request for a flexibility zoning review from Silicon Ranch Corporation to locate a solar panel farm on 15 acres of parcel 1030-05-012-03 behind 5126 West Main Street. The Tupelo Development Code requires a flexible use to locate a major utility in the low-density residential district. This property is located in the low-density residential zoning district. This review will also include the creation of a lot that's a street frontage, that the street frontage on will be 70 feet wide, not the required 90 foot. And that will be their entrance into that. Now, it's my understanding that we have a movie on this or a film on this, and so the council or the committee is going to take the front seat so we can see it on the screen behind us here.
Yeah, I'm getting that.
Good evening. My name's Allie Weaver, and I'm the Project Development Manager for Silicon Ranch. Thank you for having us this evening. Good disclaimer stuff in the beginning. We'll flip through. So this evening we want to go through a little bit of introduction about Silicon Ranch, who we are and what we do. How does solar energy work? What are we proposing to install here? Go through a few of the benefits of solar energy in the community, specifically dive into the project specifications that we're proposing here in Tupelo, walk through the project layout specifically. We've provided some renderings as well. Talk through a few of other projects that we have here in Mississippi, and then, should you guys wish, we have about a 3-minute video that shows the constructing a solar farm over time. If we have time to show it, we can. So a little bit about who we are. Silicon Ranch Corporation, it was born out of Nashville, Tennessee in 2010 by former Governor Bredesen and 2 of his chiefs of staff. We are a full life cycle approach to the solar business, meaning that we start in the early development stages and partner with whether it's local utilities or also with specific companies who have renewable energy initiatives to create a solar project that meets their specific needs in the community or for the corporation. From there, we do a full in-house design, go through project financing, and then move through construction and eventual operation and long-term maintenance of these facilities. The facilities generally are under contract for 20 to 25 years with options to extend up to 30 to 35 years depending upon the area. So we're unique in the solar space in that we are from cradle to grave in aspect of development all the way through maintenance. A lot of solar energy companies actually are either just developers or just owners or just operate. We do the full scale here. For us, it's about long-term investment and commitment to the communities that we operate in. Repeat kind of what I just said is at the top here portion. We are one of the largest independent power producers in the country, one of the top 20 actually. And just to give you a snapshot of what's going on in the company now, we have 452 megawatts in operation, over 126 projects. Right now we're working on 433 megawatts, over 10 projects, and then 600 plus megawatts in the PPA early stages of development currently. So very busy time for us. We're very excited. And this portfolio spans across the country. We're in 14 different states from East Coast to West Coast. So we've got several projects in Mississippi. 10 of the 126 are here in Mississippi locally. So a little bit on how solar works. There's a few different types of solar, but what we're proposing here is called photovoltaic solar. Still messed it up the second time. We're going to leave it. Photovoltaic, there it is. Sorry, it's Monday. Photovoltaic solar it's PV in the ground-mounted solar that actually tracks the sun. So as you can see here, there's a north-south axis, and the panel actually starts at 60 degrees facing the east for when the sun rises, and then it tracks the sun throughout the day. And at sunset, it's at a 60-degree angle facing the west. Overnight, it resets itself back to the east. As you can imagine, it's maximum energy capture and intake for these tracking panels. And this is a depiction of a solar single-axis tracking operation mounted in the field. The energy that's collected and that's created by the solar panels is going to go through a combiner box, and then these inverters, without getting too technical, it flips from direct current power to AC power. AC power is what we distribute onto the grid, so that's what these inverters are for. They're going to be ground mounted onto the piles, which are the same height as the solar panels, which are about 4 feet 6 inches off the ground. And the combiner boxes are 2 feet wide by 3 feet tall. So the whole system collectively is, when it's flat, is no more than 5 feet. When it's at the 60-degree angle, which is the max height, you're looking about 7 to 8 feet total. And this shows that solar is placed in many glare-sensitive areas, and we could show many pictures of solar throughout different communities and different landscapes, but we think this kind of depicts how we operate really well in sensitive areas such as an airport, that we blend well with the community and are able to function in these highly sensitive areas. Benefits of solar, of course, it's a clean renewable energy. There's zero carbon emissions. There's no water required, not even for maintenance. Fortunately, we don't have to wash the panels in every region of the country. It rains enough or there's enough weather to where they take care of themselves. Very low impact on land. If you guys recall the pile that was driven, and you'll see a few more pictures moving through, it's just really this 18-inch diameter pile that's going into the ground. Everything underneath will remain in its natural vegetative state. There's also very minimal traffic after construction. We remote monitor these facilities from Nashville and get live data feeds. So it's truly monitored 24/7. So very minimal impact on traffic in the community. We've got someone out here about once a quarter just doing routine maintenance, and then of course vegetative maintenance, cutting the lawn, that kind of thing throughout the year. Specifically this project, so Silicon Ranch and Tombigbee were awarded this project through TVA's, I think it was their renewable standard offer program. It's a 1 megawatt project that'll be about 8 to 10 acres in size for solar panels specifically. The project will produce enough energy to power approximately 200 homes year-round. And then there's almost 8,500 modules, and then 18 of those inverters, which are those 2 by 3 boxes that I showed, covering about 8 acres of land. For this project, we estimate to be investing about $1 million in our capital investment. We will have 20 to 25 employees, not of Silicon Ranch, but of our EPC contractor, that will be using local housing or hotels for the duration of the construction and commissioning of the project. And then, of course, long-term, it's competitive rates for the local consumers of the energy. A little bit of the timeline. So for mobilization and site prep, we're looking about 2 to 4 weeks, probably closer to the 2-week time frame. Then construction and commissioning is about 2 to 2.5 months. We're hoping it's closer to the 2-month time period. We're actually construct, assemble, and do the testing, and then of course the demobilization and revegetating the site. And then, as mentioned, ongoing 30-plus years of operating out there on the site. So this is the project layout that we're proposing for this project. You can see it kind of looks like actually the state of Alabama, but elongated, I guess, but there on the end. So the panels will be situated fairly far off of West Main Street. This is the land that we were able to acquire from the seller for this location. So our plan is to access here off of Main and have a long drive down to the back. The site will be completely fenced with a chain link fence and 3 strands of barbed wire, which really is for the benefit of security and promoting safety in the community. We produced a couple of renderings here, which are meant to show what the facility will look like once it's constructed. And we're hoping that this will help the planning committee and the audience better visualize what they can expect to see once the solar facility is completely constructed. So I'll flip through points 1, 2, and 3, and if you want me to click back to the legend, just please let me know. So rendering 1 is just driving down Main Street, looking north onto the project. I know it's hard to see anything, but that's kind of the...
Can you laser point to where the solar plant is?
Sure. So the solar plant is here. So we're about 1,500 feet offset from West Main Street, so it's hard to see, especially on the PowerPoint. We're happy to send the renderings around for better detail, but definitely very far off the road, not something that's very intrusive to people just passing by. Rendering 2 is to show from our neighbor's property to the west, and it's standing approximately 1,000 feet into the property boundary. So you may be able to see here just a little bit more of the fence. Again, not, too intrusive. And then rendering 3 was to show from our neighbor to the east. There's 2 homes that are there. This is to show their vantage point from their back porch. You can barely see the fence kind of peeking out back here. So there are some trees that kind of block the view there, but that's their view from the back porch. And then just to highlight a couple other facilities that we have here in Mississippi, for correlation here, our Chickasaw County project, the 1 megawatt project, is the same size as the one that we're proposing here. So from an aerial view, although it's not shaped the same, you can get a perspective on how large the site's going to be. And then we've got a couple other projects here in Houston, Mississippi, Hattiesburg, and then Columbus as well. And as previously mentioned, we have 10 in total in the state. So I'm happy to take questions. I'm also happy to show the video if that's helpful.
Have you already purchased the land?
Yes, sir.
How tall is the chain link fence?
Sir?
How tall is it?
6 feet.
6 feet?
Yeah, and then 3 strands of barb that are another foot, so 7. For us, it is a electrical producing power plant, and so we want to make sure that, safety is our number 1 priority, so.
You don't have any vandalism problems that you had any?
Knock on wood, we have not, no ma'am.
These glass top panels
Are they glass?
glass top panels, or are they,
Glass top.
glass top or plastic?
Glass top. You want to-
Yes, so they are glass.
They are glass top panels?
They're
Yes,
glass
okay.
modules, so these are going to be thin film modules, so they're frameless glass modules, and they are, what's the word I'm looking for? The same type of treatment that your windshield gets. Is it laminated?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
it is. Laminated, yes,
Yeah,
so
it's
they will
laminated.
not break.
Right.
They will not pulverize or break.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right, and they're thickened modules, so thickened glass. So it's thickened and laminated, and these are built to withstand the 30-year life cycle.
And hopefully they'll withstand bullets.
Yeah, well, we've had a few. We have had to deal with bullets, lots of golf balls. So there are a couple sites where apparently we got some golfing neighbors, and we've had to deal with some of that. But no issues with the modules as a result of the golfing. Obviously, the bullets have created some minor damage, but we've been able to deal with that just fine.
Okay, go ahead. This really probably doesn't pertain to this, but I helped some kids do a project several years ago at the high school, and we produced enough energy to heat and cool and light a storage building at the high school. But it was a pretty big ordeal, and the maintenance became an ordeal. So, but this just seems with ease. So I don't know if things have come that far in that amount of time. But is TVA, like when you put $1 million in a project like this, is TVA funding this?
No,
Or you are funding this?
That's right.
And then your power goes to your grid, and then it goes to Tom Bigby,
right.
and then, or does it go to TVA?
And it ultimately goes to TVA.
That's
So-
what I thought, okay.
So we are an independent power producer. So at the end of the day, we're another energy provider, just like a coal power plant, merchant coal plant would be, or merchant
Okay.
gas-fired power plant would be. It's just that our fuel resource is the sun. So in answer to your other question about whether it's gotten easier, I think it's just gotten more mature. So there's myself and a lot of our team come from the conventional energy space. So, I started out in oil and gas and, along with a lot of our other colleagues. And so, we come from the keep the lights on type of industry, and, we bring that skill set to renewable power. So, we've had a lot of success in developing the processes and controls necessary to maintain these facilities so that you all get the benefit of good, clean, reliable energy. And the way the transaction works is that at the end of the day, Silicon Ranch and Tom Bigby are selling the power to TVA. So we're working together in concert. We sell the energy to TVA, but we sell it with the help of Tom Bigby using their infrastructure, but it gets consumed by the local residents here in Tupelo.
It does that rather than go to the major grid at
Correct.
TVA, and they just kind of refund you or credit you or something.
That's right.
But they're actually doing it.
That's right.
So will 200 homes, I wonder, make a difference in the citizens' power bill? I love solar energy.
Right.
So I'm just,
Here at
I would
the-
love to think one day we would be doing.
Yeah, we're doing larger scale projects. On a 1 megawatt project, I don't know that it's enough to move the needle here locally.
Right.
But we are doing larger scale projects in Mississippi. The one in Hattiesburg is what?
52.
52 megawatts. I mean, that's a pretty sizable facility. And we've done some in Colorado, and we can send you some background on those projects. But in some of the co-ops that we've served there, they've been able to stabilize their rates, and they issued, one of them, for example, PBREA issued a statement last week that they're going to be able to freeze rates for the next 2 years because we've been able to help stabilize some of their rate issues that they've been having with their local portfolio. Because they're heavily invested in coal, and there's been some challenges with getting coal plants to operate, and, they're just, economics aren't there right now. Gas has been a pretty big challenge for the coal folks.
And I'd say also too, on a 1 megawatt scale, we've got several repeat customers, PVREA, for example. It's not uncommon for us to start at a 1 megawatt size or a smaller size project, see how that operates in the community, how well, we're, we work with the LPC then a lot of times then to have a second or a third or a fourth project or expand on the existing one that's there.
It's a great start, but a
Yes,
needle in a haystack. So I would just love to see it expand.
definitely.
Okay, one other thing, in my mind, always looking ahead, so you think the panels are about a 30-year lifespan, which is amazing. It wasn't that very long ago. But let's just say, for whatever reason, you all decide to get into a new business and sell your business or close your business, you find another business you'd rather be in, you'll own the property. But what kind of, who would get these off? Or if you sold the property, how hard would it be for someone to remove these? The
Okay.
infrastructure that you'll have, is it going to cause, are you going to leave a footprint if you leave? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so the way solar energy works is we're effectively prepaying for the fuel. So unlike a gas plant or a coal plant or those others, you still have that ongoing operating expense of buying your fuel so that you can operate the facility and then produce energy. These are the investments up front. So you're basically prepaying for all of that. So going forward, all you have to do now is collect the energy so that you can transact with TVA. So the way we're set up, our investors manage over $100 billion of funds. We've got two primary investors with Greystone and Partners Group. Greystone's out of Canada, Partners Group's out of Europe. And they manage these large infrastructure funds that are basically pension fund managed, and they look for these long-term annuity type returns. So it's a real nice, happy marriage between our business model and their type of investment structure. So 30 years, while it may seem like a long time,
It's not.
it is not when you're looking at that type of investment structure. And the fact that you've invested that money up front, even if, something did go sideways, I mean, there's going to be plenty of folks that would be willing to pick it up because it's a revenue generator at that point. The cash has been invested. In terms of picking it back up at the end of the life cycle, we're optimistic that, there could be a life for it beyond the 30 years. The warranty for the modules are 30 years. So it's not to say that the modules stop producing power, it's just that they're outside their warranty life. So we could still continue to produce power, and that's really a discussion for what the market looks like in 30 years from now. But if we did have to unwind it, it's pretty easy to remove. It's really,
That's my question.
we're pretty light on land,
If you're
so,
going to go in with these, you think you can get out with these?
right,
In case you ever want to get out?
that's right.
Okay, who else?
I have a question about like environmental impacts. Are there any impacts, negative impacts with this? I mean, I know in comparison to nuclear and coal, solar and other renewable energies are just the way to go, but are there environmental issues that can come from having a solar panel or a solar farm like this in the community?
Yeah, so interestingly enough about this project, I'd say in most projects, the environmental impacts that you run into mostly are wetlands. It's stuff that has to do with the ground and what's existing on site, and then obviously, of course, that there's trees around. So specifically for this site, there are some wetlands on the property. And if you notice the panels, we've placed them pretty heavily to the east on the property site, and it's actually to avoid, there's a wetland on the west side of the property and then also in the north central area. And I'm happy actually to flip back here. So this is a wetland up here, obviously there's trees, and then there's also wetlands here, and then this is a pond. So we cited this in such a way that there were no environmental impacts to the property, or for this project. Our overall goal as a company, obviously, is always to reduce any type of impact, because you start negating kind of the goodwill of solar if you do. So we're always endeavoring to not have to cut trees down, anything we can do to reduce, any type of impact. So luckily here with, we won't be consuming any water, no wetland impacts, and we don't anticipate, we'll have to trim some trees, the limbs of it, but we won't actually be taking down any trees.
Right, yeah, the modules themselves, there are no hazardous materials associated with these assets. The only piece of equipment that would contain oil are step-up transformers, and these are going to be the same kind of transformers you would see outside of a Walmart or a grocery store, those little pad-mounted transformers. And they're filled with mineral oil when we do have oil-filled transformers, so they're pretty benign. We're a passive neighbor.
And I have one last question for you, too.
Sure.
You mentioned earlier that there may be 20 to 30 people that are going to come in and help implement this program. Are any of those people local? And if so, are you willing to provide training for people that may be interested in getting involved in solar development or putting it together as far as?
Yeah, so the 20 that are coming in are, I don't think any of those people are local. However, on a lot of our projects, we do kind of ongoing community engagement and partnership with communities, and I think that's something that we're absolutely willing, if there's a local high school, college, whatever it may be, or just general workforce, we're happy to partner with the community. And
Yeah, we've done some things with, which school is it? It's here in Mississippi. There's a solar car. Houston, Mississippi has a program with a solar car. Those kids are pretty impressive. Very, very bright group of students, and we've done a lot of, we've been trying to work with them to do some reach out. And we've done some stuff in Colorado where they have a very heavy oil and gas presence, helping them to understand how solar data works and how we work as a complement to a larger energy portfolio. We want to be a complement to coal, gas, and nuclear, and be part of the mix, not necessarily a replacement for any of those types of resources.
Of course, you're actually robbing or taking the majority of the solar over that 8 acres. So the land underneath will not really get any solar energy particularly, correct?
the remaining acreage won't get
No,
solar energy?
what's under the solar panels.
Yeah, so we'll actually just, what happens is we have a pile machine, it just drives these piles into the ground. Let me show you. So the vegetation underneath isn't disturbed. So you can see these piles here. And this is a picture that was taken just after construction. That's why there's
That was in
no...
Arizona, by the way. It looks like that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's a desert there.
Yeah, but you can see, so there's actually no impact to the ground except for these little poles.
It would be nice, though, if we did, obscure enough sun so the grass didn't grow so fast, because it does grow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a big part of our operating costs, is that we've got to get under there and mow. And we do maintain them. I mean, we want to make sure that we're collecting as much sun as possible, so these sites are maintained.
So we're not going to have you here for the lawn mowing thing. They have, not every month, they have to have people come in and go mow their lawns. So you're probably not going to be part of that group.
No, if we're part of that group, there's something very wrong in the
Yeah.
company.
Would you like to show the video?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. We need to get with the video because it's now 6:30.
Ms. Bale, I might need you. Oh, you've got it, okay.
Hazelhurst 2 is a very important project to Silicon Ranch. It is a follow-on project with Green Power EMC, an extremely important customer of ours. It's a project that's 3 times larger than the first project we did, which to me expresses the confidence and support that Green Power EMC has in our company and their members have in us. It's also important to the community, to Jeff Davis County, and the county now has revenues to do things in terms of education and community enhancement that they otherwise wouldn't have had. And so it's rewarding to know that we're making a very positive difference in the lives of the county where we've located, and in the lives of the citizens of Georgia who are the customers of Green Power EMC, as they get a larger amount of their energy from clean, renewable, solar-generated electricity.
That unit's about 4 miles square. I mean, that actually is what you got, 450 acres there.
Very proud of the new
About 3
project
sections.
that we have here in Georgia. This new solar project is about 500 acres. Be a great addition to our cooperatives portfolio, bringing new sources of renewable energy to a growing, interested group of customers. Very proud of our partnership with Silicon Ranch and the strong relationship we've been able to build on in the second project that we have engaged with them. Not only are they super individuals to work with, their leaders, Matt Kisper and Reagan Farr, are champions in this business and very much appreciate the opportunity to work with them. They not only help us stay on the cutting edge of new technology, they also keep us on the leading edge of the cost of this technology, enabling us to bring very high quality solar energy at a very affordable cost. This new technology is very exciting in this particular site. This site has a tracking system that will follow the sun throughout the day, maximizing the amount of energy that we can gather from this very unique source of energy. In addition, we're using thin film solar panels that allow some of the most efficient gathering of solar energy from sunlight that's available today. Thank you to our membership and thank you to our board of directors who whose guidance has allowed us to fill this very interesting and exciting role among the electric cooperatives in the state of Georgia.
So Jeff is a great example of a true partner, because what Green Power EMC is doing in Georgia is also unique within the space. Georgia is a leader in my mind in collaboration among all of the 38 co-ops. They formed very early on Green Power EMC to be the procurement agent for renewable energy on their behalf in the state of Georgia. So Jeff has been leading that organization for over a decade now and has done a tremendous job. And by putting someone like Jeff, who's passionate about the space, passionate about always being on the leading edge.
The rest of this video is pretty
developing
project-specific.
That procurement strategy on behalf of the co-ops. What you've seen
This is not in the
he's been
TVA
able to
area
develop
either. This is Southern Power.
opportunities.
That's right. This was with Oglethorpe, which is, with Green Power EMC, which is a division of Oglethorpe, which is in the Southern
Projects with
Company
Green Power, I look at them more
areas
as
in Georgia, South
collaborative
Georgia.
efforts to achieve a mutual goal, and that's really to grow renewable energy in the state of Georgia at an affordable price in a way that's accretive to ratepayers in the state, and also has a positive impact on the community and the customers that these cooperatives ultimately serve.
All right, now we have more information on the solar farm that's going in and of course I didn't ask you to introduce yourself. Did you? You really need to introduce yourself so we can have it on the minute film there.
Absolutely. My name is Pete Candelaria. I'm with Silicon Ranch Corporation from Nashville, Tennessee.
Allie Weaver with Silicon Ranch Corporation out of Denver, Colorado.
And I do also want to ask if you had anything else that you wanted to put in, and why you asked to have this in this, or why you decided to have it in this area, around this area.
It was, it was awarded in partnership with Tom Bigby, and so part of it is, starts with TVA's overall initiative to introducing renewable energy into the mix in the whole valley, and then also in partnership with Tom Bigby. So there's local support as well, to introduce renewables here, within their territory. So as specific for this property site selection, I'd say it kind of comes down to becomes more of a interconnection to where can they take the actual energy, and so it starts to limit where we can actually site the project. We thought this was a good mix, just being towards the outskirts of town, so that we were not taking up, real estate in the middle of town for other developments. We thought that this would be our best location, kind of based on what Tom Bigby's needs also were here, and then setting back off the road, just to keep that frontage space, which we know is prime real estate for other development, is how we ended. We also, too, it's nice, although we want to show off our assets, we think they're great, we also know beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so we're surrounded by trees on 3 sides, which I think kind of that natural vegetation kind of helps lend to those that may not want to look at it every day, so.
All right, thank you. And of course, the manager of Tom Bigby EPA is a former TVA employee, Bill Long. So that and he was in that group that when we were working initially with solar and all that too. So that, and it's good. I think it's good to have in the area everything on it. So all right, now if you have anything else to say, or then you can be seated, I guess. All right. Pat, did we have to notify the property owners in this area?
We did.
And
did we get anybody to?
Is there anyone here that? Oh, all right. Then we'll open the public portion. Would you like to speak for or against this project? Or you just?
I guess Sandy Mahary.
You have to come up.
Or get the mic one. It'd be easier if you'd come over to the podium though, please.
This is really more just a question. I'm Sandy Mahary, and I would be the property owner to the west, Tedford Family Properties LLC. I noticed on the video, I didn't see it in any residential areas. Are any of your facilities in residential areas? The reason I'm asking that is because if at a time we developed, we wanted to develop that into a residential area. So I was wondering, do you have facilities in actual residential areas?
Yeah.
Sure, we actually, we have several projects in residential areas, and a lot that are very similar in nature to kind of what we're seeing here, which are larger lot, low-density residential areas. Social Circle, Georgia is a good one. We actually just completed a project in Kersey, Colorado, which, as you guys may know, northern Colorado is a booming area in development across the country, and so we actually just placed our facility just adjacent to a full subdivision that was accepted there. So we found that it actually becomes a complement to a lot of communities. As we kind of showed, the airport doesn't reflect it as much, but it really, it becomes almost it becomes part of the community because it blends in, but it also is a good teaching tool we found for these communities. And back to us being kind of here long-term, for us it's that long-term goal of educating the community and being a partner, and committing ourselves and our resources, to educating the community.
And I think what we've found in some communities, it does provide a near-term benefit by, bringing some assets now and having some uses for the land now, and it gives the community time to get things up to speed so that it can be in a position to take advantage of those developments. The Kersey project, as an example, they believe at some point in the next 20 to 30 years that they will have some communities develop in that specific area, but this gives them at least a runway to work with so that we can work together in concert. Even though we're adjacent to existing residential, that area where we're located could eventually then become residential behind us after we're done. So it lends really well. We're a very passive neighbor. We don't make any noise. If we don't reflect any glare or light, as you noticed on the one slide where there's solar panels located at the Denver airport, and if we're reflecting light, then we're losing money because the way the solar works is it's got a fractured surface and we're meant to capture all that light. So it's, we're a pretty decent neighbor. And where we situated this, it was so far off the main road, and you could see in the rendering, you'd have to really be looking for it to find it when you're going down Main Street. I don't know that anybody would actually see that going by the road unless they were intentionally looking for it.
All right. Thank you.
There's also, I hadn't heard y'all mention, there's also...
You need to come to the mic, sir.
That's right.
You need to come to the mic if you need to.
If you want to state some more, you can come to the mic, or really, you were just asking the question, is there a fence around the whole facility? And that's true.
Yes.
It will be fenced, as you said, with a 6-foot with 3 bars on top. Yeah, okay. All right. Any other comments or statements from the crowd that you'd like to? All right. Does the committee have any questions to ask the speaker or the presenters?
I have one other question for you. For residential communities, would this solar farm have a positive or negative impact as far as appraisals for residential communities?
Neither of us are licensed realtors, so take this with a grain of salt, obviously, what we say. But we've had this question come up, of course, in areas that we develop next to residential communities. We looked at Social Circle, Georgia, specifically because of its proximity to the site being directly adjacent, and it looks very similar to this as far as lots and homes being built, actually a little bit more dense, and the homes there have raised in value, nominal value, year over year since our site's been there. So, we would say no, but.
Right. I mean, there's not a lot of data to support it, but all we know is if you look at where we've built sites and the neighboring properties, we've seen increases in value. We don't know how value is assessed, and how that process is meant to be managed, but we have not seen any declines as a result of our investments.
Any other questions? Does the Development Services have an outlook on this, Pat?
We believe that the project meets the requirements for approval under the flexible use, that it's been appropriately sited in such a way that it minimizes any impact on other properties, and it's a reasonable use. We do have one condition or item that we would want to continue to look at as they submit construction plans. That is that with a utility project, there's normally a buffer required between that type of facility and residential property. And so we are going to ask that there be a landscape buffer provided, and that, but that landscape buffer would be, need to be done probably differently from our normal buffers, which requires trees, canopy type trees planted, and we don't want to compromise the ability of the equipment to collect the energy. So we'll look at an appropriately designed landscape buffer for the property. The other point that I would make from the staff level is that this action also includes a variance on the configuration of the lot. Normally we don't support what we call a flag lot that's narrow at the street and big in the rear, because it can kind of interfere with the development of the street frontage property if you've got something behind it. In this case, it's appropriate, we feel, to move this type facility away from the frontage so that, the more valuable property can be used for something more actively used.
And also you have the narrower lot on the front, because really it's just an inlet into the property is what it is, and there's no need to have buildings or anything on that either. So, yeah. All right. Any further discussions, questions? Do I hear some action?
I move that the variance be approved.
Second.
Who second? Oh, okay. It's been moved by Scott, seconded by Bill, that we approve the variance. Any questions on this?
Could I ask that the motion actually be stated to approve the flexible use and the variance?
Okay. I'll move that the flexible use and variance be approved.
And I second that.
Thank you. All right. No discussion or anything? All in favor, raise your right hand. Looks like it's unanimous. No opposed? Yeah. All right. Second item on the agendas, and thank you.
Thank you.
It's been approved. Now, it's approved by the Planning Committee. These action will go to the City Council, and the City Council will actually have the final say on whether this is approved or denied.
Thank you.
When is the City Council meeting?
This will be probably handled in the maybe December council meeting, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
All right, the second order of business is FLEX 17-04, the Department of Development Services has received a request for a flexibility zoning review from Genesis Church of North Mississippi to reestablish 3239 Tom Watson Drive as a place of assembly or worship. A place of assembly or worship is not a permitted use in the RC zoning district where this property is located. This building was used for a place of assembly or worship under our old code. And do I have someone here that will be comment or make this application?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Ben Brown, my wife Sharon, pastors of Genesis Church, available for questions. We've been established church here out in the Auburn community, and we rent a facility out there now that just doesn't suit our vision. We've been established for 2 years. We inquired about another particular property with Tommy Morgan Realtors, and then they put us on this one. And actually, we signed a lease on October the 4th, and then received the letter that was actually had been rezoned. So actually, Tommy Morgan wasn't aware that it had been rezoned when we signed the lease. So we have done some work there. We've had a fire inspection and got a follow-up tomorrow. We're waiting on our CO via this approval here. So we were told this was the next step for us was to get the city council involved. There's the property there. I don't know if some of you are familiar with that property there on the...
All right. Mr. Faulkner, have the property owners in the area been notified?
They have.
Were there any responses?
No.
Does the committee have questions for the presentee?
Are you purchasing this property?
No, ma'am, just renting. This is just a stepping stone. I think there's some flooding issues there, potential flooding issues, and we would not be interested in with that risk. But to rent it, I think it is a really good location. It lines up with our vision. So, but no, we're not be purchasing it. Just signing it. Actually, 2-year lease is what we agreed upon.
Okay. So just a 2-year lease on this? Then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
So Pat, if we were to approve this, that just is for them. Is there a precedent set or something, if we wanted to later on rethink that?
You're correct. It would just be for this applicant. Could I explain about the actual change of the code that created this situation? It was not rezoned, but when we wrote the code that was adopted in 2012, we looked at the Barnes Crossing area, the regional commercial zoning district, and thought about the fact that a lot of that land was being developed and filled up, and we only had a limited amount of land still out there. So we took out some uses that had formerly been allowed, like the church place of assembly, a church worship, which can be located anywhere in the city, and in order to try to preserve that higher dollar real estate for the uses that generate a little more revenue. This particular property is not going to attract a lot of developmental, value until it's redeveloped and filled and is less of a floodplain issue. Mm-hmm. So in the interim, we're open and okay with allowing this use. We just don't see that as the long-term best use.
All right. Any other questions that Pat has explained that, or Mr. Faulkner has explained that? Do you have further questions for the property? Do I hear some action?
I move that we approve the flexible use.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Scott, seconded by Bill, to approve this. And any questions on this? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Looks like there's no opposition, so it's unanimous, so thank you. And now, as I say, this will also go to City Council, and it'll probably be on the agenda for December City Council meeting, but, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next. The third item on the agenda for tonight is RZ 17-03. The Department of Development Services has received an application from Native Sun Farms to change the zoning of parcel 077C-25-066-00 across the street from 1302 and 1203 Accia Trail from medium-density residential to agricultural open space. Is there someone here to make a presentation on this?
I don't really have a presentation, but I am here.
Yeah,
Come to the mic, please.
I don't have a whole lot to say, honestly.
Well, but we might have some questions, and that way you could speak into the mic.
Okay.
Yeah. And just tell what you want to do with that, if you would, Mr. Reed.
Yeah, so if you see the large parcel that's zoned agricultural, I have an organic produce farm in Tupelo, and so I own that piece of property right there. I've been growing vegetables since 2013 was the first year, and I've acquired this piece of property next to me, and I'm interested in building a barn there to facilitate the washing and packing of my produce.
Any questions from the committee to Mr. Reed?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
And Pat, what's the perspective of the Department of Development Services on this?
We have no objection to it. It's not a large enough property to significantly change the supply in either category, either zoning category. It's got some issues with the ditch in that property and the shallow depth of it from the street that would make it very difficult to develop residentially.
Did you notify the property owners, and
we did.
What was their comments on it?
We did have one call from someone who had some questions about that. We actually put that person in contact with the applicant, and they've discussed that, and I think those questions were satisfied.
All right. So evidently there was no one here to speak on it, I see it. All right. Any more questions of Mr. Reed? All right. We've heard it. If no more questions, do we hear some action on it?
So moved.
All right, so Bill has moved this time.
I'll second it.
Yeah, Patty seconds it. Okay, and any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hands. It's also unanimous. Yeah.
Yes, I have my hand.
All right. No. So thank you, and this will also be covered at the December meeting, but pretty straightforward.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. We're glad you're doing that down there.
Hey, I appreciate it. I enjoy being in the neighborhood, and so.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Thank
kind of
you.
worn out this time of year, but I
Yeah.
assume we'll be ready to do it again next year.
Yeah, but you'll have some rest this winter.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other business, Pat, Mr. Faulkner?
Not at this time.
Not something we adjourn.
Well, we need to ask about next month.
We do have 3 applications.
So we will have a work session, which will be, I don't have a calendar.
All right, so the work session would be the last Monday in November, so that would be the 27th.
Okay. That's at the Monday after Thanksgiving. Is that any problem with, you think?
That would mean, is y'all okay?
I may not be able to make that. I may be out of town that day.
Does anyone else have that? I think we'll
Well, we
still,
waited till Tuesday since it's a holiday. Would that help you any?
I can make that.
It would? Y'all
It's just a
okay?
work session.
it's just a work session now, so.
Yeah, I learned a lot in the works. Okay, anyway, okay. So
Let's do it on Monday.
Okay.
We'll just do it on
27th.
Monday, yeah.
The meeting is-
27th. And then the meeting will
And
be
then the meeting
December
would be the 4th.
the 4th, and that's December 4th. That's the day that the city is going to have a lunch for us, or dinner, isn't it?
So the workstation will be that Monday or that Tuesday?
Monday.
It'll be Monday.
The 27th.
We'll keep it on the 27th.
Yeah.
In December is the Tuesday. I call it the Tuesday.
Yeah, you can check with Mr. Faulkner on that, and he'll fill you in. It's just kind of, people are used to doing it on Monday, and so it might mess up some other plans, so
Well, the city
okay.
council.
And so December 4th would be the meeting date. Does anybody have any problems with that? That's early enough in December, it shouldn't be much problem, I guess, so.
So now we'll make a motion to it.
Now, Bill's motion's in effect. Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been made and seconded, and all in favor, stand up and leave.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.